morning, everybody. My name is Walter Aguirre. I am the founder of Grow Armstrong. That is a podcast to help promote Armstrong County in Western Pennsylvania. The goal of the podcast is to really help grow the community, help grow the county, and really focus on different things within the community, such as small businesses, nonprofits. Um, Today, I have the pleasure and honor of interviewing one of the county commissioners who is running for re-election, Pat Fabian. Good morning, Pat. How are you?
Good, Walter. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, anytime. I'm really glad that you asked me to do this because, again, part of this podcast, part of what I want to do is really to help promote and highlight the things that we're doing in this community, in this county, right? All the positives of it. Because, again, you always hear the negatives. You always hear all the bad things about it. But there are a lot of good things happening, and we've seen them, and you've been a part of some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. I think often our ears are more drawn to the negativity. What happens when you turn on the news? The first 10 minutes is negativity, and we don't talk about the good things. And Armstrong County has a lot of positive things going on, and we've had a lot of things going on since I was elected in
Yeah,
2015.
absolutely. Well, I'm going to let you give the people a little bit of background on you and what you've done, and then from there we'll go into some of the questions that I came up with.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to reintroduce myself to some folks, I first ran in 2015. I'm a lifelong resident of Armstrong County. I reside in Manor Township with my wife Jill of 19 years.
Hmm.
My son Anderson's 15, and my daughter's 12, Alexa. So, you know, what's interesting about me is when you look at this particular race, we've kind of talked about experience matters, right? I just didn't walk into the county commissioner's position. I spent 5 years as a Manor Township supervisor. I spent 16 years as a mental health therapist working at Family Counseling Center of Armstrong County. And prior to even thinking about running for public office, in particular the office of Armstrong County Commissioner, I often work with probation, CYS, the jail system, the jail counselors. Um, as a township supervisor, I often worked with the economic development
Hmm.
department. So I had a plethora of experience and successes as a Manor Township supervisor. And, I'm very conservative. I'm very fiscally responsible. And I'm proud to say in 13 years as an elected official, I've never raised or voted to raise
Hmm.
property taxes
That's
in my
fantastic.
township at that time and as a township or county commissioner.
That's fantastic. And all those things and all that experience kind of play into together. You know, when there's no jobs, there's no opportunities. What happens? People turn to drugs, turn to violence, turn to alcohol, and then of course things kind of spiral out of control. So again, your experience with that really help push forward and help you develop everything that you've been doing over the past 12 years. So we're gonna get into some questions. I'm gonna clarify, everybody. This is a non-biased interview. I just want to throw that out there. So we're good. So one of the
Also, I want to throw out there, I have not seen these questions, so
no,
this is raw.
yeah,
So I'm
yes.
not prepped for it.
Pat has
We
not
wanted
seen these.
we wanted it that way
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. So Pat has not seen these questions, which is good. And again, they're not crazy questions. They're pretty standard, and I think you'll like them. I think you guys will see where we're going with it, and you'll like it. So the first question is, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing our county today?
Um, we coming out of COVID, we have a lot of challenges. You know, one thing when I'm talking to voters, whether I'm out walking the community, I'm knocking on their doors, asking them for their vote, is you know, our property taxes. And what's interesting to me, a lot of people don't understand our tax structure in Armstrong County. And just to reiterate, our school tax is our
Mhm.
biggest taxing body. They take in about 70% of the taxes. The county takes in the next 20, and then your local municipality take in 10% of those taxes. So, here in the middle, or we'll call it the heartland of Armstrong County.
Mhm.
Armstrong County takes in, or Armstrong School District takes in over $100 million of property tax. That's
Wow.
our school budget. Um, Compared to the county, we're about $14.4 million.
Um,
But how do we grow that tax base is one of our biggest challenges. So when I was elected in 2016, those 4 years were kind of, you're prepared for the job, but you're not prepared
yeah,
for the
absolutely.
job. A lot of assessment, looking at county government holistically. We made a lot of changes in those first 4 years, but over the last 4 years, we've taken an aggressive approach to development. And one of those things that we've done is over the last 14 months, we've partnered with our IDC, the biggest developer in Southwest Pennsylvania. They have the largest portfolio, and it was a great partnership. And you'll hear me talk a lot about partnerships because that partnership, it was good for them where they needed land, their parks were grown,
Mhm.
and we had land.
Absolutely.
And part of that is we're putting in two 30,000 square foot not maker space, but flex buildings. You don't put $12 million in investment if you're not sure that you have people coming into them, right?
Yep.
People ask me what's coming, and because of confidentiality agreements, we
Yep.
can't really say that publicly. And then we partner with a developer who's going to put 90 houses. So there again, we're bringing people into
Yep.
the county. We're increasing our tax base through new businesses, new structures, and residential development.
Yeah, that's awesome. I did read about that, and that was amazing. All right, DC Park does have a giant portfolio of properties and different assets, so that's great to hear that. Here's another question: small businesses are the backbone of the American economy. What steps would you take to help them succeed?
Our economic development department has a small business retention coordinator that should be reaching out, but a lot of it's got put on pause in
Mm-hmm.
2020. And one thing we did through a lot of federal dollars came into the county, and we had to create several new programs to help small business.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, and I gave some criticism online, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was a small business owner at
Who
the time.
doesn't?
Yeah,
Who
yeah, yeah.
doesn't?
Yeah. I was a small business owner at the time, and I'll never forget the date. It was March 13th,
Mm-hmm.
2020. My business which was Armstrong Athletics, and I had some partners. We were going to go out of business
Mm-hmm.
had we not received federal
Mm-hmm.
CARES Act funding. And I get criticism because, as a county commissioner, our partnership group did apply for those and received dollars, but it just wasn't AIA. Over 180 businesses applied for
Mm-hmm.
that, and one of our biggest barriers at the time was getting communication out. And
Absolutely.
everybody can Google search. We got it out on Facebook, a video. We did front page ads to tell businesses,
Mm-hmm.
particularly small business owners, about the program. We earmarked $2 million to help these businesses that qualified, and these funds were audited. So I take a lot of pride that we put $2 million back out in the street. Fortunately, at the time, only 1.7 million of that was applied for. So we
Right.
had $300,000 left over. So, and I take offense to the fact. Well, just because I'm a county commissioner, my
Mm-hmm.
business is no important than the one down the street. Um, we it qualified. We were eligible by and I made sure that
There was no
our
conflict of interest or anything.
conflict of interest, and the attorneys checked all the boxes. But
You're always someone's always going to say
right,
something. That's the unfortunate thing. No matter what you do,
yeah, it's just noise to hey, it's election year, so they're going to bring up
Yeah,
something, right? But
absolutely.
to that point is we started business tours here in the last
Hmm.
6 months, and here again, you might hear some grumblings out there that these are just photo ops. They're really not. The community economic development of the state has a program where our small business retention uh, employee sets these business visits up. We get paid to go out and do
Yeah.
surveys and kick them back to the street. And
Hmm.
what we do with those dollars that we receive back from the states for doing these surveys, and a lot of them are related to COVID. What's your
Hmm.
workforce challenges? How is your workforce? How's your business changed since COVID? And then we give that information back to the state, and in return, we get dollars back, and then we reinvest that in small
Yeah,
business.
absolutely, and that's awesome. A lot of small business did suffer during COVID. Restaurants, gyms, anything that had a group element to it. So gymnastics, tumbling, anything that had to do with those things really took a big hit, especially in small towns like Catania, Pennsylvania, and Armstrong County as a whole, because we are an agricultural land. Whereas in LA, New York, Chicago, there's millions of people and millions of things to do.
I
So,
don't have the accurate number, but I know it was well over $100 million, whether it was PPP, A
Mm-hmm.
lot of businesses got in our communities. CARES Act funding, ARPA funding went out to nonprofits, and like you said, a lot of the facilities that were closed down by the governor's emergency orders,
Mm-hmm.
it really did end.
Oh yeah, big time. So, and what I'll do is later on, I will, if there's any business owners out there that would like some information on the resources, we'll put that out there as well.
Sure.
That way they can kind of get in touch with whoever, if maybe if they just need some kind of assistant or maybe knowledge, something like that. We'll put it together, put it out there. Um, so here's another question, kind of on the same boat, just probably same area. What areas do you think should get the most investment? For example, roads, bridges, public transportation, infrastructure, education.
One of my frustrations when we meet every fall, to go over our budget, right? It's almost like we're backwards. So when we send out everybody's proper or tax bill, right,
Mm-hmm.
we put on where all the funding's going. And if you look at county government, about 55 to 60% of that go to courts and corrections, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you truly want your community to grow or your county to grow, it's almost backwards. Don't we be investing in economic development? And when you look at that pie chart, we have less dollars going into economic development. So that's something that we've been changing,
Mm-hmm.
making more investments in our communities, whether that's through infrastructure. And
Mm-hmm.
right now, with President Biden's Build Back Better program, there's a lot of dollars. So our team in economic development, and we have grant writers that we subcontract
Mm-hmm.
with to assist with grants because we just don't have the manpower sometimes. But going after every dollar, sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. But I'm pretty proud of our record of putting in infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
One of the boards I'm involved with right now, I'm the vice chairman of Southwest Pennsylvania Commission. A lot of economic development dollars flow through there, mainly transportation. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud to say, since I've been involved in that program, whether we're bringing back dollars for our trails expansion, or you see a lot of projects going on in the county right
Oh
now,
yeah.
whether you go up 66, 422, soon to be the Graft Bridge. It comes from me getting involved in
Nice.
these in leadership outside Armstrong County, and we're averaging about $65 million a year in new transportation funding.
Yeah, that's amazing. The running joke at my house is I lived in Western Pennsylvania for 14 years, and there has not been one year where there hasn't been construction.
Right.
So anytime it's summer, I kind of crack jokes that the Pennsylvania wildflower cones are back out. Again, but it's a good thing in the end. Yes,
Right.
it's a little bit of a headache now, but it's long term
Right.
that we're looking at. That's fantastic. Um,
And I think one thing that it might not impact, these folks that travel down to our universities in Pittsburgh or arts and culture or go to a Pirate game, Steeler game, or some of our finest medical facilities down there. You see what's going on at the Highland Park. The Armstrong County
everywhere.
Commissioners were a big part of that, getting
Mhm.
that funding there. It does directly benefit. When we're talking about bringing in new housing developments
Mhm.
to Armstrong County, and if people can get to Pittsburgh 5-10 minutes quicker,
Yep.
it benefits people to relocate here.
There was a big I can't remember what the term is, but there was during COVID a lot of people in major cities saw they wanted to leave the area, so they moved into suburban areas, they moved into rural areas, they moved out of the city, and I think that's a trend that's going to continue. So if, you can position Armstrong County in a way to capture that attention and to bring those people in, I think that's a very strong move.
And I'm glad you brought that up because broadband, right?
Mm-hmm.
Connectivity. Those are big goals for us. This last year, we connected 7,000 people to high-speed internet and increased their connectivity. So they might have been around 43%. And I'm no whiz at this, but we're getting them up over 65%.
Yeah.
That much faster, so to speak. But you're right. If we have an expansive broadband here, and how we do that is we work with our existing fiber line providers who have fiber, make those investments so we can get more people connected. And those folks that maybe not want to live in the city relocate here. They work from home,
And they can still work and still do the things that they do.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're seeing a lot of. I've been reading that a lot of young Latinos are buying houses in Mexico City and El Salvador because of what those presidents are doing there to influence those changes. But cost of living is lower, and all they need is a laptop and internet, and they can do their job. So,
And we have a lot of people in Armstrong County that work that way.
oh,
My wife's a perfect example of
mm-hmm.
that. She works for a company out of San Diego, and you know, she works off her laptop
No,
5 days a week.
no.
She travels once in a while, but yeah.
Yeah, I do miss that life, but that's fine. All right, so that's fantastic. Here's one more. Let's see. A well-educated workforce is critical to sustain economic growth. How could you improve education in the county?
Well, in 2016, I think one of I don't want to call it a frustration,
Mm-hmm.
but when you look at our neighbors, Clarion, Indiana, Westmoreland, Butler, Allegheny, they all
Mm-hmm.
have universities in their backyard.
They
Armstrong
do.
did not. So this was a conversation, but the late Representative Jeff Powell really took that conversation to a whole nother level
Mm-hmm.
with recruiting BC3 here and turning the former, or my alma mater, Fort City High
Mm-hmm.
School, and it's heartwarming in a sense that turning one institution into another with
Yep.
BC3. So
They should put the cannon back out in front of it. Yeah.
it's down in the park. I'm sure they could do that. But that's one way, right?
Yeah.
And supporting what they're doing at the tech school. I just went to their advisory committee meeting, and they have some big plans
They
up
do.
there. They have waiting lists now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's some big things on
Mm-hmm.
the horizon there, which I don't want to go in too much detail
Mm-hmm.
about. And then two, we just recreated something at North Point. So everybody knows that IUP has a very small presence there. So we applied for a Makerspace grant through SPC in the region, and there's a current partnership between IUP and Carnegie Mellon to do some curriculum and programming down there. So giving those opportunities for autonomous vehicles, robotics, and stuff like that. So, but you're going to see that presence there. That curriculum's in the work right now, and our students and beyond our borders will have an opportunity to come into our IDC Armstrong and take advantage of that as well.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I will tell you that I benefited from the trade school. When I left my corporate job, I decided I wanted to learn skilled trade, and that's where I went for welding.
Yeah.
And I took advantage of the program, and it is a great program. It is a great facility. There's definitely a benefit to it. So if you're interested, again, I'll throw that information out there as well too. But no, that's fantastic. I'm really happy to see BC3 out there. I'm really happy to see all the positive changes coming into town, and I'm just excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited. A lot of new small businesses.
We are too. So.
I have a couple more. I think I came up with like 13.
Oh, we'll
Yeah.
knock them out.
Oh yeah. All right. Merging police forces across the county has been a point of contention. What do you see as the pros and cons of this?
I try not to see the cons in anything, right? Everything's got to be positive. From what I hear, it's going well. I'm not directly, as a county commissioner, involved with that. I think some folks initially were skeptical, but I know Gilpin, Fort City, and Freeport
Mhm.
combining those resources sounds like the problems with a lot of these municipalities before they decided to do the Southern Regional Police Force was personnel. And I heard their staffing issues are fine, and I think that's a good thing.
I think staffing issues are everywhere, not just in restaurants and skilled labor, corporate, but just everywhere in general. I don't know what it is, but something's out there that people rather do that than do work or whatever. I don't know what the situation might be.
If I had a magic wand, I like how personally I've traveled down south. I like how they do in some other states. The county have a sheriff department. They cover the entire county, and that's not how we're set up legislatively here in the county. And I know the Sheriff's Association of Pennsylvania has kind of advocated for that. Not it hasn't been successful, but maybe there will be a day and time where we'll have a county police department to go out there, because a lot of these communities, whether they're full time or just part time, it's a big burden on their budget.
Absolutely. Growing up in LA, you had LAPD, and then you had the LA sheriff, the LA County sheriff. So if you saw the sheriffs, that was bad. All right, I got a couple others. Let me see here real quick. Can't read. Oh, all right. Let's see what else we got. This is a fun one. I think it's a fun one.
Ooh.
All right, and all right. If you received $1 million grant to use for the county any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why? And $1 million is, I know, is very low. So let's think of $1 million as like a lot of money.
Yeah, that's really not a lot in county
It's
government.
not a lot in county government, but it's just I know what I would do with $1 million, which isn't much anymore. But
I know what I would do personally with $1 million.
Buy a boat.
Yeah, almost that's a loaded question,
Mhm.
Walter, because no matter what I say,
someone's going to take it the wrong way.
somebody's going to take it the
Yeah.
wrong way. Whether it's that nonprofit, whether it's that municipality,
You're right. I didn't
or
think about
that department or that elected official, because that's exactly what happened.
I will answer it then. Spread the love accordingly,
That's
or
right.
equally.
Well,
right?
but to your point, I'm all about investments.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So I would spend it wisely. Like, what are we
Absolutely.
going to get in return for that? So
Yeah.
that's how I would look to spend that. What are
Yeah.
our priority projects, and what's the return on investment? Because just to kick out $1 million somewhere, what are we getting in return for that $1 million?
And that is a very fantastic way of looking at things, because you have to, at the end of the day, you have to look at things like a business.
Right.
That's what it is. You're running different. You have different expenses. You have different fixed costs. You have all these different things that you need to know how to manage. And if you can't manage the funds to keep them going, what happens to businesses? All right. Let's see.
Well, too, and you want to turn that $1 million into $2 million,
Absolutely.
$3 million. So
Keep it going.
And that's been our approach here since 2016. What's the biggest bang for our buck?
All right. Now this one, you'll like this one. What do you think sets you apart from the other candidates within your party, or the other candidates trying to, get elected?
Right. Well, I was just somewhere over yesterday, and they said, "Man, there's a lot of people running for office." I'm like, "Actually, no, there isn't."
Mhm.
When I ran in 15, we had 2 openings, and there was 15 candidates. When I ran in 19, we had 1 opening, and there were 7 candidates. Uh, Again, we have somebody not rerunning, Commissioner Renshaw, and we have 7 candidates. So those numbers, you're going to see
Mhm.
those every election. But I think really what separates me is, I've been a Democratic leader within the Democratic Party for the last 13 years. I just didn't show up to this thing.
Mhm.
When I first got involved, I worked elections. I decided to run for a township supervisor position, and then made the decision to run for a county office.
Mhm.
So every step of the way, there's a lot to learn at this.
Absolutely.
But really, what separates me from most and all candidates running this time is my experience. My experience at a local level, my experience at a county level, and now that I've been doing this 8 years, I'm currently the president of the Northwest County Commissioners Association. I'm the vice chairman, as I mentioned earlier, of SPC, and I've made a lot of connections regionally. I've made a lot of connections in Harrisburg, and at the end of the day, if you don't have a seat at the table and if you don't know who you're talking to, you're probably not going to eat, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, 100%.
but that's what it's definitely my experience
Yeah.
with that question.
Okay. All right. And now this one's going to kind of piggyback off of that one. If elected, what are some of your top priorities while in office?
Well, I continued this aggressive approach to increasing our tax base. RIDC Armstrong, just in the last month, we've had 2 groundbreakings. Next month, we're going to be breaking on, the housing development down there. Keep growing that part with our partner, RIDC. I think looking at other areas, I was just at got a priority project at the Horsemen's Association where they want to put a new arena under roof there, which between Center County and Ohio, there's going to draw a lot of people to Armstrong County, and it's about beds and heads, right? People coming into our community, people spending money here, and maybe staying. Just met with a lady yesterday. she visited here a few times over the last 6 months and decided to retire and move here.
Mm-hmm.
She liked everything that Armstrong had to offer. One of my biggest frustrations is everybody talks about the river, right? It's beautiful, but it's an underutilized resource. This last Monday, I hosted an SBC meeting here in Armstrong County, and one of the big topics was the Allegheny River, and how we can get lock traffic back through and opened up. Because one of our challenges is they do it by commercial traffic right now. And one of our biggest challenges is if we can't get commercial traffic up here, we can't market these properties, which is what we were built on, river towns, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
PPGs, the Elgers, the sand and gravel places. It's hard to promote and sell those properties to businesses that want to bring things up either by rail or barge. So that's one thing I want to keep on talking to our congressman, talking to the Army Corps of Engineers about utilization of our locks and dams, so that benefits us from a economic development point.
Absolutely.
Well, I just want to say you said one of my biggest priorities is probably recreation. When I ride around the county, we need to really invest in not only our communities but brighten these parks that we have here. So that's something that I want every single community is have a safe place for our kids to go to and play, but also have the best playgrounds, the best fields, and that alone will bring folks into the community as well.
I 100% agree with you on that. I mean, Armstrong County has a lot of beautiful scenery. They have a lot of outdoor. If you're an outdoorsman, Armstrong County it's the place. It's got it. So I mean, I can appreciate that. I'm sure a lot of other people can appreciate that. And the goal, like I said earlier, the goal is just to really bring awareness to what this county offers. We're starting off in Catania because that's small and close to me because I live in Catania.
Right. And it's the county seat.
And it is the county seat, and then grow it from there. But Pat, I want to thank you for your time.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking your time to come and talk to me about doing this interview. And I hope that you enjoyed some of the questions. I hope you enjoyed this.
Well, I appreciate you. Actually, when I reached out to you, I couldn't think of a better person to do a podcast with, and 'cause I know you're invested in your community. You do a lot here, whether people know you or don't know you. I know
I try.
but I thought it was unusual that this is a 15, 19. Nobody's debating. Like this is an executive position, and nobody's debating. Nobody has platforms out there. Nobody knows what these candidates are about, and there hasn't been a forum. So I just thought it was important that at least get something out there through a podcast so people can at least hear from me, because we just don't have that forum out there. And not only for county commissioner, but there's several school board elections up now, and it's a $100 million operation, and we're not talking about those candidates and what's going on. So that's concerning.
Like I said earlier, I think if a lot of people like myself are, I don't want to say tired, but let's just say they're disillusioned with everything that's going on, it all starts locally. So you have to get involved locally. And again, this was a great opportunity to speak with you and talk about some of the issues and some of the challenges and some of your goals moving forward. Because again, it does start local. So that plays a big role. You can't get to the top if you don't start down somewhere. Right. So it's really important for people to hear this. And again, I want to thank you for being on here, and I'm going to work on getting a couple other guys on here to interview them as well, just so that we can kind of keep the ball rolling with. Thank you so much for listening, Pat. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come down, sit down with me and do this interview. If you want to plug where people can find you and your information at, please, by all means.
Yes, Walter. I'd just like to remind everybody that the primary is coming up for all candidates this spring. It's going to be on Tuesday, May 16th. I'd appreciate everybody's consideration to check my box. Also, you can find more information about me on patfabian.com or visit my Facebook page at Pat Fabian, Armstrong County.
Sounds good. You can find all the information for Grow Armstrong on growarmstrong.com. And there will be a public page available also called Grow Armstrong here by the end of the day, because it used to be a private group. But we're going to change things around. Or you can follow me on Facebook at Walter Aguirre, and I'll post all that information. All right, guys, thank you so much, and have a good day.